Hi, I'm Robert Bentley, head coach of Legacy MMA Fight Team.
And I'm Dominique Jackson with the Rulership Movement.
Today we're going to be going over UFC 144 fight card. This is the first time that they've had the fights back in Japan.
In 12 years, the last one was in December of 2000.
Since Zuffa took over, they haven't had a UFC event in Japan. This is a huge deal. Japan is really the mecca of MMA, and so it's exciting for it to finally get back there to its roots.
And since UFC left Japan, we really haven't seen anything over there except for the Pride fights, and so it's going to be a really exciting time for the Japanese people, for that nation to get. I really think they're going to have a huge event.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it. All right, so let's go through the fight card real quick.
All right, starting off our fight card, the first fight on the main card is going to be Anthony Pettis versus Joe Lauzon.
That's going to be a very exciting fight. I'm really looking forward to that. That's probably one of the fights that I'm looking the most forward to.
Absolutely. Next, we got Hatsu Hioki versus Bart Palashevsky.
Nice. This is where we're going to see they're going to start plugging a lot of Japanese fighters into this show, really trying to get the crowd into it.
And for the main card, because a lot of those Japanese fighters are starting off with the preliminary bouts and the Facebook fights, and so that'll be big as well. All right, so our next fight is going to be Yushin Okami versus Tim Bosch. As we well know, Yushin Okami is probably the best fighter to ever come out of Japan.
Yeah, that's the way that a lot of Japanese look at it, is that he's one of their best guys that they've ever had. He's made it to one of the top levels, and he was a contender against Anderson Silva.
Absolutely.
Big deal.
Absolutely. Following match is going to be Yoshihiro Akiyama versus Jake Shields.
Sexy Yama.
That's going to be a good fight. I'm looking forward to that.
He's a legend in Japan.
Absolutely.
I mean, with all of his singing, opera singing, modeling, everything else that he does.
Absolutely.
Big name there in Japan right now.
Next bout is going to be Mark Hunt versus Chet Congo. Haven't seen Chet in a little while, but I'm ready for it.
I haven't seen him, but Chet's a beast, man. I mean, he's probably he's the muscle guy of the
About
UFC.
to say, if they needed to pick a body to frame the UFC for, that is the one. That is the guy.
You see him take people down, and you see his back muscles. They get that top view, and he's got muscles on muscles.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. In the co-main event, we have making his return to Japan, Quentin Rampage Jackson. He's fighting Ryan Bader.
Rampage, and we know that Rampage is a big name there. He fought in Pride for years and years, so that's why they've got him on the card.
And this Quentin Rampage Jackson requested this fight, so this is big. I'm happy that he got it.
Yeah.
And then we have our main event, Frankie Edgar, the champion, versus Benson Henderson.
Ooh, this is going to be, man, exciting fight. Exciting fight. We're going to get into more details here in a second, but oh man, these guys are just.
It's going to be a great fight. You really couldn't ask for more. Yeah. Great card.
Okay, so let's go back to the bottom of the fight card, back with Anthony Pettis, Joe Lauzon.
Yeah, this is going to be a fantastic fight, I think. The thing about Joe Lauzon, he's got those 5 submission of the nights. 17 wins by submission in his career, so he knows what he's doing on the ground.
17?
17 wins.
A lot of submissions.
Now Anthony Pettis is great on the ground, too. We saw it in the fight with Clay Guida. He had a lot of leg movement. That's why Clay Guida really couldn't do anything. I mean, a lot of people thought that Clay Guida would just lay on top of him. Really, he couldn't move, because Anthony Pettis was moving his hips around so well and adjusting so well that he
kept pulling back to the cage a lot too.
Absolutely.
And working his way up.
Absolutely. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I think the submissions are going to neutralize each other, and I think if it goes to the ground, it won't stay there long. And so I'm looking to see it. It's probably going to be a striking battle is what I'm looking to see there.
So now we've talked about this before. We both kind of believe that Anthony Pettis definitely has the stronger stand-up.
Yes.
Joe Lauzon has the better submission. So is this going to be one of those classic stand-up versus submission fights?
I don't think so, because I think Joe Lauzon has a lot of power.
Yeah.
I think the power is gonna be what Joe Lauzon is gonna rely on, because I really think that I think Joe Lauzon's goal is gonna be to get it to the ground.
Sure.
That's where he's gonna want the fight. But I really think that Anthony Pettis' submission defense is gonna get him back to his feet, and we're gonna start striking again.
Seems like both of these guys are just so well-rounded. You can't really call them stand-up or submission fighters.
This match is so evenly matched. I mean, this fight is so evenly matched. It's gonna be crazy.
Great fight.
So, prediction for the fight?
Prediction for the fight? I gotta go with Anthony Pettis.
Anthony Pettis.
That's our boy. We've, a lot of you guys know Mr. Jackson and I have been around Anthony Pettis since we were kids. We started, competing with him and his brothers at tournaments. So,
right.
Yeah. But at the non-biased look, man, I look at Anthony Pettis and he's just so explosive.
Yes.
And with my fighters, that's what I'm always training for them to do, is just have that explosive drive whenever they fight, and that's what I see. Always got to go with that guy.
What I see with Anthony Pettis is I see great fight preparation. If you notice in the last couple of fights, he's not showing them the exact same thing. He's really catering his fighting style to the person he's fighting really well. You saw that with the Joe Stevenson fight, or
Jeremy Stevenson.
Jeremy Stevenson's fight, where he used a lot more wrestling than he normally does, and I think he's going to do what he needs to do to win this fight. I have Anthony Pettis in the second round.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's go. We're going to go to the co-main event then. Quentin Rampage Jackson against Ryan Bader.
You know, Ryan Bader has gotten so much better with his striking, but I think Quentin Rampage Jackson is just on another level when it comes to the striking department. His boxing is amazing, but I think the thing that gets Rampage in trouble is that he only wants to box. He doesn't want to kick. He doesn't want to do wrestling.
His wrestling's so strong.
He's a great wrestler, which is the thing that kills me.
Now, both these guys are so powerful. I mean, we've seen knockouts, big knockouts from both these guys. Do you think this is going to be a knockout fight?
I think this fight probably will go deep into the third round. Probably will end in a decision, is what I'm looking at this fight. Both fighters swing for the fences a lot. The thing with Rampage is his swing is a lot more controlled. He controls his strikes. He's got the strike zones down. As far as Ryan Bader, he throws that big looping overhand right that he's been catching a couple of people with. And I think that Ryan Bader is going to try to drag the fight to the ground. I mean, and that would be the smart thing for him to do. That's pretty much the recipe to beat Quentin Rampage Jackson. Put him on his back and hold him.
Looks like it.
And to Quentin, I would say, use your wrestling defense. I mean, you wrestled for a long time yourself, so I mean, fight prediction, I'm going to go with Rampage Jackson. In this one, I think the allure of the Japanese crowd, he's going to be hyped up, and I think that Ryan Bader's fading. He's getting to the upper echelon of fighters now, and he's starting to.
You talked about earlier that this is such an important fight for both of them, but yeah, I agree that crowd is probably that's going to get behind Quentin, and that's going to get behind all those other Japanese fighters. Yes. So that'll be great. Main event: Frankie Edgar, Benson Henderson.
This fight is. I've been looking forward to this fight for a long time. These two fighters are so evenly matched. I mean, you got great striking and movement with Frankie Edgar and speed. You have power and wrestling with Frankie Edgar. I mean, you have wrestling and power with Benson Henderson. You have movement with Benson Henderson. Both of these guys are about evenly matched.
Sure. It's
going to be a great fight. I can't tell you I'm excited about this.
Do you think that there's a guy as physically strong as Benson Henderson in the 155 division?
Not outside of maybe a Sean Shirk or maybe a Nate Diaz, because he drops a considerable amount of weight to get to 155. Diego Sanchez when he was down there. But as the lightweight division stands right now, I think Benson Henderson probably is the most physically daunting guy in that division. I mean, the size of his legs alone.
He's scared.
He's very professional. He takes care of his body. He's always working out. It's not just I'm going to train for this fight, and then after the fight's over, I'm going to take 2 or 3 months off. He's always in the gym. And Frankie Edgar, I think a lot of people underestimated him for a long time. Now they're starting to see what he's really got. He is the champ for a reason. He beat BJ Penn twice in a row. And then went ahead and beat Gray Maynard twice. So he's doing exactly what he needs to do to get himself prepared. What do you think about the wrestling aspect of this? Both guys have great wrestling.
Lots of wrestling. I think, with what I've seen in the last few fights, I think Benson Henderson is just continually getting stronger and stronger, and has become more of a complete fighter.
Absolutely.
Frankie Edgar, he's been at that stage a little bit longer. It seems like, being in the UFC a little bit longer, being on that stage, I think he's going to have some experience there. Very close fight. I'm kind of pulling for Benson Henderson in this fight, but yeah, good matchup, good fight.
And the will to win is another big thing about this fight. Both guys have so much heart. Frankie Edgar getting hurt early in both of those Gray Maynard fights and sticking through that. Took a pretty good pounding in that BJ Penn fight the first time around, was stuck in the fight. Benson Henderson just runs people over. He just stays in the pocket and goes after you. As for fight prediction, I'm going to go ahead and go with the hot guy right now, Benson Henderson. I just think the power is going to be a little bit too much. I think the wrestling is going to stifle each other, and I think Benson has better striking. So.
All right, awesome stuff. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Mr. Jackson, thanks a lot for your predictions and your good information. We hope to do this more often before all the main events and before all the big fights for the UFC.
And also stay tuned for the post-fight show. Also stay tuned for the post-fight show.
Okay, maybe.